Sudden shifts often come after long seasons of silence, uncertainty, and internal preparation. We don't always see it coming, not the change, not the breakthrough, not the moment where everything begins to turn. But if we look closely, we realize that the soil was being tilled all along. The silence wasn't empty. The waiting wasn't wasted. The stillness wasn't stagnation. It was sacred groundwork. There are moments in life where everything feels suspended. You wake up each day and move through it, going through the motions, sensing that something is off, but not quite able to name it. You try to stay hopeful, but it's like standing at the edge of a foggy cliff. You know something is on the other side, but you can't see it, you can't touch it, and you can't predict when the clarity will come. So you wait. And waiting is its own kind of courage. We're told that change is loud, that transformation is instant, that you'll know when you've arrived. But the truth is, some of the most important changes happen quietly. They happen in the space where you're questioning everything, where nothing feels certain, where your heart is breaking open and rebuilding all at once. They happen when you're alone with your thoughts, wondering if you've missed your moment, if the discomfort will ever pass, if the hope you've been carrying is just a cruel illusion. But those seasons, those long, unglamorous, silent stretches are not punishments. They are passages. They are the waiting rooms of new beginnings. And it's in those quiet places that we meet ourselves most honestly. When the world is loud, we perform. When it's quiet, we confront. We confront our fears, our disappointments, our truths, our patterns. We confront the places where we've betrayed ourselves to be accepted, where we've shrunk to make others feel comfortable, where we've pushed down our dreams because they felt too big to admit out loud. The internal preparation that happens in silence is deep and often invisible. It's the work that no one applauds because no one sees it. It's the nights you spend journaling your truth even though you're afraid of what it says. It's the therapy sessions where you sit in the ache and choose to heal instead of numb. It's the boundaries you start to set, not with anger but with wisdom. It's the voice you reclaim, the one that was quieted by years of conditioning and fear. This kind of preparation is sacred because it's honest. It's not about branding yourself or proving your worth. It's about becoming congruent. It's about aligning your inner world with the way you show up in the outer one. And when that alignment begins to root itself in your bones, something beautiful starts to unfold. You start to realize that the shift doesn't always announce itself with fanfare. Sometimes it begins as a quiet no more, a quiet I deserve better, a quiet this is who I am now. When a shift finally arrives, it can feel sudden to the outside world. People might say, you've changed, or where did this version of you come from? But you'll know the truth. You'll know the shift didn't come overnight. It came after countless nights of wrestling with doubt. It came after seasons of releasing the need to control everything. It came after you stopped outsourcing your worth to people who couldn't see your value. The suddenness of a shift is often just the final step of a long, invisible journey. It's the sprout breaking through the surface after months of root work. And that work, the root work, is what sustains us when life inevitably gets hard again. Because it will. Life isn't a single transformation, it's a cycle of becoming. And every new version of you will require a deeper version of truth. The danger in these silent seasons is that we're tempted to think we're doing it wrong. We compare our journey to highlight reels. We wonder why others seem to be moving forward while we feel stuck. But stuckness is often misdiagnosed. Sometimes what looks like stagnation is actually gestation. You are not stuck, you are evolving. And evolution takes time, it takes stillness, it takes heartbreak. It takes letting go of who you were to become who you were meant to be. There is a sacred intelligence in delay. Not every door opens when you knock. Not because you're unworthy, but because some rooms require a stronger version of you. Some opportunities demand a deeper integrity. Some callings require you to drop the weight of your past so you can walk into the future freely. In those long seasons of preparation, you'll be tempted to distract yourself. We all do. We binge, scroll, shop, drink, and busy ourselves to avoid the discomfort of becoming. But if you can stay present, even when it hurts, you will find gold in the silence. You will hear your own voice again. You will begin to differentiate between the noise of fear and the whisper of wisdom. And that whisper, that's the voice that will guide you through the storm. When the shift comes, you won't need to force it. You won't need to chase it. It will feel like a homecoming. Something inside you will click into place. And though the world may see it as sudden, you will carry the quiet knowing that you earned every inch of your growth. Not through perfection, but through persistence, through resilience, through the relentless decision to keep showing up even when you had every reason to give up. Don't underestimate the power of your silent seasons. That's where you're doing the soul work that no one can take from you. That's where you're laying the foundation for a life that doesn't require performance to feel valuable. That's where your courage is being refined, not in applause, but in alignment. It's easy to fall into despair when you don't see results. But remember, a seed doesn't sprout the day it's planted. It grows in darkness. It breaks open underground. It expands in ways no one sees. And you are that seed, breaking, expanding, becoming, quietly, powerfully, and on time. You don't need to have it all figured out to be on the right path. You just need to stay honest with yourself, stay grounded in your values, stay open to what your heart is trying to say, even when your mind doesn't yet understand. Some of your greatest growth will not make sense until after it happens. Trust the process anyway. The world rewards speed, performance, and noise, but the soul honors patience, depth, and presence. And the truth is, most people never experience true transformation because they're too afraid to slow down and feel. But you're feeling it, you're facing it, you're walking through it. That is strength. So if no one has told you lately, I will. You're doing sacred work. You're doing the hard, holy, quiet work of becoming. And when the shift comes, and it will, you'll be ready. You'll walk through new doors with steady feet. You'll speak with clarity you didn't have before. You'll move from a place of grounded confidence, not shaky validation. And that is freedom. Freedom doesn't always look like a grand escape. Sometimes it looks like a quiet knowing, a breath of peace in your chest, a moment where you choose yourself, not because you're trying to prove anything, but because you finally believe you're worth it. So let the silence do its work. Let the uncertainty stretch you. Let the preparation refine you, because the shift that's coming is not just a moment, it's a mirror. It's going to reflect back everything you've been building quietly, courageously, and consistently. And when it does, you'll know this was never about becoming someone else. It was about remembering who you were all along. You are the shift. You are the miracle. You are the harbinger of your own breakthrough. And everything you've been waiting for, it's already unfolding right here in this sacred, silent, beautiful now. Courage isn't born in calm waters, it is forged in storms. Those words might seem simple, but when you sit with them, really sit with them, you begin to understand a truth that many of us spend our lives trying to avoid. We often crave safety, predictability and comfort, and who can blame us? Calm waters feel good. They're easy to navigate. We can see what's ahead and we feel in control. But life, as it always proves, has its own tide. And more often than not, the growth that changes us forever comes not in the moments where everything is going right, but in the moments where everything seems to be falling apart. Storms are inevitable. Life doesn't offer a path free of pain, grief, or struggle, but it does offer us something more powerful than ease. It offers us transformation. The real question isn't whether the storms will come, but how we choose to face them when they do. Do we shrink back into fear? Do we deny the chaos and pretend we're untouched? Or do we rise, broken perhaps, shaken for sure, but wiser, stronger, and more alive than we were before? Courage is not a loud roar. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's the quiet decision to get up one more time, to speak when your voice trembles, to love when your heart is still healing, to believe in something better, even when all evidence tells you not to. That's where courage lives. Not in perfection, but in persistence. Not in knowing all the answers, but in choosing to show up in the unknown. There is something sacred about people who have walked through fire and still choose kindness. There is something resilient about a heart that's been bruised and still believes in beauty. These are the people who understand that courage doesn't make pain disappear. It gives pain a purpose. And when you realize that, everything changes. You stop fighting the storms and you start asking them what they came to teach you. Our culture often glamorizes strength as invincibility. But the real kind of strength, the lasting kind, is born from vulnerability. It is born when you admit you're scared, but you keep going anyway. It is born when you admit you don't have it all together, but you show up as your full self. It's forged in the storms when life demands more of you than you think you can give, and somehow you still find a way to give it. Think back to a time when you felt like everything was crumbling. Maybe it was the loss of a job, the end of a relationship, a betrayal that shattered your trust. Maybe it was a diagnosis, a disappointment, a deep aching loneliness. You probably didn't feel courageous in that moment. You probably felt exhausted, confused, even numb. But you're here. You made it through. And maybe you're still carrying pieces of that storm inside of you, but you survived. And that survival, that quiet endurance, is its own kind of miracle. You see, courage often looks like continuing to believe in the goodness of people after they've hurt you. It looks like choosing hope when despair seems easier. It looks like telling the truth even when you're terrified of the consequences. It looks like being honest about your own pain, not so others will fix it, but so you can finally stop pretending it doesn't exist. We live in a world that often tells us to suppress, to mask, to edit our emotions into something more palatable. But what if the very things we're hiding are the keys to our courage? What if the storm is not the enemy, but the invitation? There's a kind of radical honesty required to face a storm with open eyes. It requires you to name what you're feeling, to grieve what's been lost, to ask for help when you need it, and to offer help when you're able. This kind of courage doesn't posture, it participates. It connects, it tells the truth. And let's talk about grace for yourself and others. Grace is the glue that holds courage together, because the journey through the storm is not a linear path. You will take steps forward and steps backward. You will have days when you feel unstoppable and days when you can barely get out of bed. You will say the wrong things, you will lose your temper, you will doubt, and still you can be brave. Healing doesn't mean the storm didn't happen. It means it no longer controls you. It means the narrative is no longer about destruction, but about rebuilding. And you get to be the architect. You get to decide how this story ends. We need more people who aren't afraid to be seen in their brokenness. We need more people willing to lead with empathy, not ego. We need more people who understand that the bravest thing they can do is be fully, unapologetically themselves. That's how we change the world. By showing up scarred and sacred and refusing to let the storm define us. And let's not forget, storms don't just strip away, they reveal. They reveal who we are at the core. They reveal the people who stand beside us and the ones who disappear. They reveal our fears, yes, but also our resilience. They strip away the distractions and demand that we confront what really matters. And what really matters always is love. Not the shallow kind, but the real kind. The kind that says, I see you, I know you, and I'm still here. If you're in a storm right now, I want you to remember this. You are not alone. Someone else has felt what you're feeling. Someone else has cried those same tears. And someone else has walked through it and come out stronger. Let their story be your reminder that you will get through this too. And if you've just come out of a storm, use that experience. Use it to be a safe place for someone else. Use it to tell the truth. Use it to live boldly, not because life is certain, but because you've learned to be brave in the face of uncertainty. Courage isn't about eliminating fear. It's about choosing to act in the presence of it. It's about trusting that the next step will appear even when you can't see the whole path. It's about building a life not in the absence of storms, but in the strength you've gained by walking through them. You are stronger than you know. And the storm, it's not the end of your story. It's the beginning of a new chapter. One that you get to write with trembling hands and an open heart. So when the wind howls and the waves rise, don't shrink, don't run. Anchor yourself in the truth of who you are. Let the storm do what it came to do. Let it teach you. Let it strip away what no longer serves you. Let it forge you. Because when it passes, and it will, you'll look in the mirror and see someone who didn't just survive. You'll see someone who grew, who stretched, who softened and strengthened all at once. Someone who learned that courage isn't born in calm waters. It is forged in storms. And that kind of courage, that kind of hard-won bravery, it changes everything. Those who carry lightning, truth tellers, disruptors, and visionaries must first make peace with rejection, doubt, and solitude. Because the truth is, when you carry something that powerful, when your presence, your voice, or your vision challenges the way things have always been, you will stir resistance. Not because you're wrong, not because your light is too dim, but because it shines too brightly for those who are not ready to see. Lightning doesn't ask for permission. It strikes. It illuminates. It disrupts the silence of the sky. And that kind of force, though beautiful, is rarely welcomed. To carry lightning is to walk into rooms where people whisper your name with either awe or fear. It is to speak words that feel too sharp for comfort, too honest for the status quo. It is to stand in places where people would rather you be quiet, compliant, or small. But you weren't made to be small. You weren't called to be safe. You were created to carry a charge, something electric, something divine, something that rattles cages and wakes sleeping hearts. And for that, you must understand, rejection is part of the calling. The world is not always kind to those who disrupt it. It rewards conformity. It celebrates those who keep their heads down and follow the rules. But the ones who change the world, they rarely fit in. They are often misunderstood, sometimes even hated, because it's easier for people to reject you than to confront what your presence reveals about their own fears, their own apathy, their own silence. This is why so many visionaries feel alone, because the road of impact is not paved with applause. It is carved through resistance. If you are a truth teller, there will be times when your honesty feels like a liability, times when it costs you relationships, opportunities, or comfort. There will be moments when you second guess everything, wondering if life will be easier if you could just play along, blend in, numb out. But deep down, you know the answer. You weren't made for ease, you were made for impact, and impact always costs something. You have to be willing to walk alone sometimes, to sit in rooms where no one claps for you, to say the hard thing even when your voice shakes. This is not a punishment, it is preparation. Because those who carry lightning must be strong enough to hold its weight, not just in their voice, but in their heart, in their integrity, in their solitude. They must learn to anchor themselves, not in the approval of the crowd, but in the quiet knowing of their soul. There's a difference between being loud and being powerful. Power, real power, often whispers. It speaks in stillness. It moves through integrity. It shows up day after day, even when no one notices. The most powerful people I know aren't the ones making the most noise. They're the ones living their truth when it would be easier not to. They are the ones who carry lightning, not as a weapon, but as a torch. A light in dark places, a signal to others who are finding their way. You see, when you carry lightning, you will light the path for others, but you will also reveal the shadows. And not everyone is ready for that. Some people will call you too much, too intense, too emotional, too honest. Let them. Their discomfort is not your burden. Your job is not to shrink yourself to fit their comfort zone. Your job is to remain rooted in who you are, even if it costs you the approval of those who never really saw you in the first place. There is a kind of grief that comes with being different, a kind of ache that only those who have walked through solitude can understand. But there is also a kind of freedom, an unshakable peace that comes from knowing you didn't abandon yourself to be accepted, that you stood tall in your truth, even when it felt like the ground beneath you was crumbling. You are not hard to love. You are hard to manipulate. There's a difference. People who benefit from your silence will always confuse your strength with aggression, but don't let that stop you. You were never meant to live at the mercy of fragile egos. You were meant to lead, to create, to disrupt, to awaken. And yes, that road is lonely, but it's also holy. There is something sacred about the wilderness, the place where everything familiar falls away. It is in that place where clarity is born, where identity is forged, where you meet the truest version of yourself. And that self is untouchable. That self doesn't need applause to feel worthy, doesn't need agreement to feel validated. That self knows that lightning is not chaos, it's calling. There's a difference between walking away and walking toward. When you start shedding the roles and expectations others placed on you, some will say you're abandoning them. What they don't understand is that you're not leaving them, you're returning to yourself. You're walking toward alignment, toward purpose, toward peace. And not everyone is meant to come with you. You will lose people on this journey. People who once praised you when you were quiet, who now criticize you because you're bold. People who once celebrated your potential but now resent your power. Let them go. You are not here to manage their feelings. You are here to be faithful to your gift. And your gift is not small. It was never meant to be hidden. It was meant to set fires in cold places. Sometimes the people you thought would support you will be the ones who turn away first, not because you did something wrong, but because your evolution triggered their stagnation. Your growth became a mirror they weren't ready to look into. But again, that's not your fault, and it's not your fight. Your responsibility is to keep growing, even if it means growing beyond the spaces that once held you. The weight of lightning is real. It will stretch you. It will demand things from you that you didn't think you could give. But it will also bring you into contact with something deeper than comfort, authenticity. The deep peace that comes from living a life that is honest, that is courageous, that is yours. The truth is, some people spend their entire lives avoiding the storm, never realizing they were born to dance in the thunder. But you feel the electricity in your bones. You feel the pull of something bigger than approval. And that is your calling. That is your invitation. And yes, it comes with solitude. But it also comes with clarity, with power, with a kind of knowing that nothing and no one can take from you. Make peace with being misunderstood, with being too much, with being different. Make peace with walking alone for a season. Because on the other side of that path are the people who see you clearly, who don't flinch at your fire, who don't ask you to dim. These are your people. But you'll never find them if you keep hiding. And please remember, rejection is not the end. It's often the beginning of your truest work, the beginning of your deepest healing, the beginning of a life not built on performance but on purpose. Every no you receive, every door that closes, every person who walks away is simply clearing the path for what is meant for you. Do not chase what leaves when you tell the truth. Let it go. Lightning isn't always welcome, but it's always remembered. You may not be everyone's favorite. You may not be the most popular, but you will be real. You will be free, and freedom is worth the fire. So carry your lightning with pride. Let it move through your voice, your art, your leadership, your love. Let it disrupt, let it heal, let it illuminate. And when the solitude comes, as it inevitably will, wrap yourself in it like a blanket, not as punishment, but as preparation. Because you are not alone in that wilderness. You are being refined. Keep speaking the truth. Keep living boldly. Keep showing up in your fullness. The world doesn't need more noise, it needs more light. And you, with all your rawness and radiance, are lightning in human form. Let them talk. Let them leave. Let the storm rage. You were made for this. You were made to carry lightning.